Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
In this real side experience, I initially would have the objective of engaging with a being that I would describe as creationally powerful. In cause and effect creation, anything is possible to be experienced. It's a case of formulating the idea, the desire, the intent, via the idea-generating body vehicles. The ideas become consciousness implanted, assuming there are no unseen subconscious ideas the individual is unaware of that conflict with the idea, then eventually effect manifested will be its nature. In regards to the body forms, the abilities and attributes they possess, as the body vehicles are affected also from a consciousness design, so we can create body forms as physically powerful or imbued with any degree of what would be considered supernatural ability as we so choose. For we always are the effect reflection of our inclinations, drives and wants in regards to our creational positioning and the body types we operate to experience our simulator placement through. And indeed, creation is awash with all manner of body forms, with varying degrees and extent of capability, and although what transpires on the creational side has nothing to do with the real awareness, isness, reality of our true selves, other than realistically just comparison by which to recognize the all is from, such beings, if they have developed themselves to be creationally very powerful and have secured themselves positions where they can wield great influence, as generally such characters tend to troll agreement that affords them the capability to exercise the power and ability their body forms possess over others, as despite a body form's might or capability that it can impact others in any way is strictly agreement dependent, as we each are the deciders of our experience and in relation to others, so prudent is it to attempt to approach such beings regardless of how they elect to operate in creation. As most powerful beings tend be destructive, but we can present them with alternative options that will ultimately improve their own circumstances and perchance acquire their assistance in regards to our galactic awareness beneficial projects. For with their developed capability and the agreement they have, which they can swing in directions that also can be life beneficial, so such powerful beings can be valuable assets. In this case, the powerful being I was to approach, I was also to assist, for as it transpired, for whatever reason, he was contained and imprisoned in a dimensional position where his ability to have any impact or bearing on simulator affairs, be they beneficial or destructive, was very limited. Impressions revealed he wasn't, in fact, Dark Force affiliated in any way, nor was he of an inclination to be destructive and abrasive, though he would still be an individual who was a personal self-consciousness immersed, and although there were no details revealing as to who or what had imprisoned him, or the reasons as to why this was so, this seemed to be the situation. As I said, a powerful being that may prove to be a valuable asset, and indeed, as is a standard, he would be appraised of the New You song, the years pertaining references, etc., but prudent was it to release him from his containment, that he was then unshackled and able to afford assistance. The real awareness is somewhat unlimited. No situation is beyond its ability to deal with or handle, as it animates the simulated inserted forms to carry out whatever is required. But as everything creationally occurring is based on agreement, our ability to interject into the affairs of others, even positively, is dependent on the agreement of others that we can do so, as absent of the idea that I can assist an individual, then the simulation of that assistance cannot be experienced. And so it was agreement that had this being in his contained situation, by whatever means that was secured in relation to those who had imprisoned him, but agreement now extended to me that I could execute his release. I would traverse through what impressions suggested were a series of dimensions, visually very vibrant, colour and geometry predominantly, and eventually enter a final dimensional position in the presence of a being sat upon a throne of a kind. Though contained and unable to move beyond the boundary of this final scene, a kind of glowing and multicoloured chamber, as though everything of it, including the very air, were comprising of rainbows, is how I may best describe it. The being himself appeared bipedal, a standard two-legged form, though of a body type that I was unable to describe, as though it made no sense to the personal self. But as I said, impressions were of a sincere and very creationally powerful being, and I would proceed to set him free. And if he indeed affords assistance, remains to be determined, as everything's a free will choice, and I was dealing with a personal self, consciousness embracing a character, as I said, at least for that moment. The scene would fade, I would be accompanied momentarily by a group of individuals, and we were proceeding to another position, though our progress hampered somewhat by hordes of twisted body forms, and what appeared to be human zombies. Rather a standard, that of Dark Force resistance, the distorted, monstrous attacking forms, and including human interference, the zombies. For should a human be completely consciousness-embracing, as a human consciousness is of a dark force programmed design, it is then as a support mechanism for the dark force's perpetuated dominion of the Earth and the simulator through the agreements extended to the dark forces the consciousness comprises of. And this dark force support will manifest multi-dimensionally, that humanity overwhelmingly will attack us on the real side, though generally oblivious and unconscious that they are doing so. And oftentimes humans are presented as zombies on the real side, an apt representation of a species, generally unconscious, on automatic, programmed, consciousness-compelled pilot, and very likely as a hint to what humanity may become should the distorted electromagnetic frequencies continue to be ramped up, etc. Regardless of the resistance the group and I were facing, as we simply were traversing multi-dimensionally, we would not be halted. We weaved and evaded our way around the thrashing creatures and zombies, and the scene would switch again. I have shared over the years the various potentialities that may befall humanity as a species. The potentialities are as ideas that have been human consciousness implanted through whatever mechanism this has been achieved. For nothing can an individual or a species experience absent of the consciousness installed idea agreement. The dark force reptilians must have the agreement that they can continue to impose on humanity's overall experience, and the agreements that they can escalate their ability to further restrict humanity, or despite their best efforts, they will be unable. Every idea agreement in humanity's consciousness will be present and in effect now in actuality, but through the inclusion of time and space ideas into a consciousness, so manifested onto the physical level are the effects, though not immediately as they are in reality, there is a somewhat of a delay. The movie is complete, but must be processed through the apparatus, the consciousness effected body forms, to a conclusion, and this only will be so if the movie selected, the particular idea is held to long enough that its end be reached. That should another idea agreement take prominence, another movie be selected, then an altogether different experience begins its gradual rollout to conclusion. The dark forces then, with the objective of depopulating or completely wiping out the human species, are cramming every possible idea of an apocalyptic, catastrophic nature into human overall consciousness as they can, in the hopes one of them will be retained as the forerunning and prominent agreement long enough to become a physical level actualized. And on the real side, we are shown the various potentialities, none of which are guaranteed, for as I said, it's all according to which agreement remains held to at the expense of all the other alternatives. This was indeed the impression I had in the scene I now was in. I was based on the Earth, and the sense of as though an impending, globally impacting, dark force instigated adverse situation. I was in the company of another individual appearing human, though impressions revealing he was very aware, and we were walking through and around a large forest area. Although I wouldn't have a visual verification, the impression was of an alien presence also, a species that wasn't human, but that was affording assistance and just prior to the cataclysmic upheavals that were set to take place. It was as though this alien element were present on the earth at that moment, but somewhat out of phase with it also, as though operating slightly beyond the frequency range where their body forms and ships could be discerned. For indeed was the impression of their spacecraft positioned throughout the forest the individual and myself were walking through and around, though operating just beyond the frequency range, where they not only couldn't be seen by the human eye, but unable to be physically interacted with also, that a human could walk through what would be to them an invisible alien craft, as though it were made of air. The exact species of alien wasn't determined, but they seemed to be offering an option of a planetary relocation, but only for the humans who could perceive and indeed then interact with their craft and be afforded extraction from what was likely to be an extinction level event, or at least a very severe depopulation effort. Very likely only the humans who were stepping up and becoming more aware would have this option, as I have shared before. For a dark force programmed consciousness held to will effect as extreme a limitation, and the unconscious human will be resigned to that which it comprises of. The effects of these various cataclysmic idea potentialities should they come to pass. But should a human elect to undergo the process of awareness, which entails a facing and releasing of the ideas of consciousness, including all the dastardly, catastrophic, and apocalyptic ideas, so they are not resigned to effects the consciousness embracing human will be. Other options, other ideas can be consciously agreed with, including planetary relocation opportunities, and these become then as alternative experiences. And it seemed here that absent of the process of awareness being embraced, and the aliens and their ships would be beyond the human's ability to perceive, as though the aliens were operating under the radar, so to speak, and that for those embarking on their awareness is recognizing journeys, the requisite adjustments to their consciousness would facilitate their ability to be planetary relocated. They would be able to perceive the aliens and their ships, which would be as though solid craft and body forms, as opposed to being invisible, apparitional, and unable to be physically engaged with. This notion has also been presented before by myself and others on previous real side experiences, that of an alien relocation option, but one that would occur from a dimensional position slightly out of a phase of that which is the general human experience, and that only those becoming more aware would have the required consciousness tune-up, so to speak, where this then becomes a viable planet extraction possibility. I had shared on previous real-side experiences that involve these potential cataclysmic heads-up possibilities, that a feature of some of them includes a planetary power failure, as though instigated EMF-style disruption in conjunction with or just prior to whatever the nature of the global upheavals happen to be. In one experience, this was expressed very demonstrably with the planes dropping out of the sky, and in this current experience, as I was walking with this individual through the forests where the invisible aliens and their ships resided, so would a number of planes be taking to the skies, as though, just like in the movies, a desperate bid to find a safe haven, as though humanity had been afforded pre-warning to what was set to occur, very likely presented as uncontrollable, but in actuality dark force orchestrated. And as the planes became airborne, so some global power decimating mechanism would cause the planes to crash to the ground. Interestingly, some of the planes had as though severe impressions along their sides, as though they had suffered a tremendous impact of some kind, though the source of which was never revealed, perhaps a further symptom of whatever mechanism had rendered the earth absent of a power. The scene would switch, and the impressions was of my now being in the aftermath of the cataclysmic global event. Humanity, although not destroyed completely, were vastly depopulated, the cities of the world in ruins, and additionally the sense of the aliens and their human relocating craft no longer being present, as though they had rescued all they could, all according to the agreements of the humans as to if they effected such an option for themselves, or had resigned themselves to overall humanity's fate. I would be traversing the now decimated planet, still in the company of the same aware individual I had been previously. We would walk alongside a river, and where suddenly a submarine would emerge from it. The individual would step upon it, I would do likewise, and we were afforded a convenient means of transportation along the river for as long as the submarine remained above the water. At one point the man would fade from the scene, and I would come across a group of human survivors. The impression was that I was meant to locate these particular humans, that despite they being a part of this potential experience, evidently among those who resigned themselves to it through human consciousness clung to, and denying themselves the alien afforded extraction option, nevertheless they were humans that still showed a promise whereas recognizing was concerned, but had as though missed the boat, the alien relocation option, but still were being thrown a lifeline, so to speak. For they would accompany me, and we would proceed to journey across the globe, and gather other humans also into our group, as though formulating an awareness becoming a crew. We would at one point be traversing through a human consciousness representing a vast building, and at this moment so was overall human consciousness effecting the apocalyptic human experience, and this expressed as the necessity to be extra creative where survival was concerned for my group. Visually, we were traversing through the human consciousness building amidst the confused and desperate humans, and required was it to proceed without becoming locked into it, that the group were experiencing it, but were endeavouring to retain indifference to what were in reality simply simulation-effected ideas. For if we latch onto the ideas and embrace them, we are resigned to their effects. With objective, real awareness, nowness, indifference, we can walk through any creational situation and not be absorbed into it. And it was as though then I was guiding them through the human consciousness that was effecting as the current overall human experience, that of a planetary apocalypse, and as we came across disruptive or aggressive humans, I would pass a hand across their faces, and they would be as though nullified momentarily, which allowed us to proceed unmolested. Symbolically, they were then facing the human consciousness, the process of awareness, that of facing and releasing the ideas of consciousness, progressing through its construct to ultimately get through it all and to that which would be beyond a consciousness, that being their real awareness, isness, true being positions. And as we proceeded, we would come across a number of very aware beings, who also would accompany us, and the experience would end there. Overall, then, each individual determining their own circumstances according to what they decided, be it as a part of apocalypse-style scenarios, or able to be provided alternative options. But regardless of what transpires in creation, we can at any moment choose differently. We can decide to become more aware and set intent with the ears, as was revealed here, with the humans caught up in one of many potential dark force instigated Earth situations. And despite how dire our situations may become, how dire we have in actuality decided them to be, always we can decide differently. But then, if we miss our opportunity windows, who is to say if we may be afforded another? As DUANE often says, the new presentation will remain in operation as long as feasible, but it's unlikely to be present amidst global cataclysmic style situations.